What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. On this video, we're going to break down fighter pilot call sign history, what it takes to get a fighter pilot call sign, some of the funny call signs that maybe you wouldn't want to have yourself but are worth bringing up because, hey, every fighter pilot call sign matters, but it doesn't matter as much as smashing the like button for me. That would just help me out a ton. And if you smash it, I'll give you the call sign SMASH, which is a pretty epic call sign. But in all seriousness, it helps me grow this channel and I would greatly appreciate it. And it turns out, this is crazy, but like only 30% of people that watch my videos are subscribed to the channel. What? So if you would go ahead and subscribe, it'd mean a lot to me. But you don't have to do that either. Obviously the choice is yours. With that said, let's jump in. So the way that fighter pilots get their call sign, it all revolves around what's called a naming ceremony. And these naming ceremonies can take the form of lots of different things. I mean, you could have a naming ceremony in a penthouse or somewhere on the Las Vegas Strip, or you could have a naming ceremony in a pit in the middle of North Carolina that's dug out with a bulldozer. True story. But it just depends on where you're at, you know, what your deployment cycle is like, where the namings are going to be. If you're going to go to a red flag or some sort of event at Nellis, then you probably have a roll call intertwined into a naming there. But at the end of the day, it's all about the naming ceremony. And what usually happens is there's 9 or 10 FNGs, which stands for FN New Guys or FN New Girls. And you have what's essentially a party for the elders, who's ever been in the squadron a while. They kind of form the committee of the ones who will bestow the name upon thee. Okay, so now that the naming is planned, what typically happens from there is bribes. Now, you want to give a bribe that isn't seen as kissing someone's butt, because maybe then your call sign will be KB for kiss butt or something like that. I'm going to tell you my call sign, but I'm going to wait a little bit, so stay to the end of the video and I'll give it. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 80% sure that I'll bring up my call sign on this one. But essentially, you bribe the committee. So you're like, hey, you know, we're not trying to bribe you, but we're trying to bribe you. And you want to do it in a way that doesn't come across as too try-hard, like I mentioned before. Some things that I've seen as good bribes are some history. So you'll tell some epic history from your squadron, something that took place back in the day where your squadron rolled in, slayed the dragons, stormed the castle, and saved anyone who needed to be saved in the castle, and they won. Ultimately, it's all about camaraderie and telling stories that just show how awesome your squadron has been. All right, so now that you have a little background on how it goes down, we'll talk about what the names could be themselves. I've seen some pretty crazy names, and I think it's worth noting here that you essentially need to have some guidelines, right? Everybody needs a guideline here or there. It's pretty much free will for the committee to decide what name they want to give each fighter pilot, but what we would say back in the day was, hey, if we shout your name across a bar, we don't want it to make you not get a date, and we don't want to be so embarrassed that we don't want to hang out with you. I think that's pretty good for guidelines personally, and this is something that is really important to me. I was all about making sure that our squadron was seen as awesome, because we were. And if you give bad call signs, if your squadron's consistently throwing out bad call signs to kind of like knock people down or like show that, like, you know, they need to do what you say because they're the young guys or girls, it's like, no, man, you're missing the point. The whole point of a fighter squadron is to be your absolute best up in the air, and I think that translates be your absolute best down on the ground. And when you have a solid call sign, it reinforces that, and it just, in my opinion, it makes you more excited about the whole fighter pilot experience. So what I noticed is the really solid squadrons that I was a part of, typically all the naming committees, like we would have fun and joke around, and we'd throw up some pretty crazy names up on the board. For when the FNGs walked in, they would see names that they'd be like, what? And I saw one that I can't say here when I walked in to the room to get my name, and I was like, oh no, like I can never tell my mother what name I got, you know? Like I'm never gonna get a date again. But I think it's really important to give people cool names, and that was something that I tried to do when I was a member of the naming committee and I could bestow names upon thee. So again, some fighter pilots will say, well, it can't be too cool. It can't be a name like Rambo. It can't be a name like Iceman. I challenge that. I'd say, hey, let's get the most absolute cool names we can possibly get so that we're leaving this legacy of awesomeness behind us. But it is worth noting that you definitely can't really get a name that you ask for. And if you ask for a name, it's gonna be rough, because most likely you're gonna get something completely opposite of that. I remember I was in a naming ceremony and someone asked for the call sign Disco. They were like, you know, I want to be like a disco, like I go to discos, you know, I'm really cool, like I like going to nightclubs and stuff like that. And we were like, okay, noted. So we kicked them out, and then they came back in and they got the name Guido, which, you know, is not a bad call sign. It's not terrible, but we were kind of like making fun of the fact that this person wanted the call sign Disco. So one of the worst call signs that I saw is a guy that I think he just kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. And hey, you know, there are cliques, there are, you know, popularity contests in fighter squadrons. It's just, you know, it's the real world, it's life. This guy didn't have a lot of friends at the time, and he got the call sign Balls. Yeah, sorry bro, your call sign is now Balls. Good luck with that. Like, not cool. But what ended up happening is that kind of motivated this person to like be a good person and be a good dude and try to make friends and not be so abrasive. And essentially what they did before deployment was for like 4 months straight during all of our exercises, they just started crushing it socially and in the jet. And this person was a wizzo, and they essentially started shacking all their bombs. And a shack means you hit the target directly in the middle and everybody goes shack. And so what happened after about 3 or 4 months of this person consistently just crushing it in the jet, we had a renaming before our deployment, and they got the call sign Shack. So call signs can change. A lot of times if you go to combat and fly with a call sign, it'll stick with you. Here's some funny call signs that I pulled up that you should definitely know about. Shag, which stands for social hand grenade, so probably a good story behind that. Zeus. Then the Zeus one's kind of funny because it stands for zero effort unless supervised. So a lot of times these call signs will have duality or multiplicity, however you want to say that. I just like saying big words because they're fun to say. So the call sign should probably have multiple meanings. And at the end of the day, the fighter pilot call sign is fun, and it's just a source of pride. It's something that you become proud of, and it helps you create a reputation in the fighter pilot community because people don't know each other's first and last names typically. Seriously, you could be in a squadron with someone for 3 years and you might not know their last name, but you'll know their call sign, and that's kind of how we all keep in touch, and it's kind of how you build your reputation. So with that said, I will toss out what my call sign is. And you're supposed to have a beer in your hand when you do this. Don't have a beer at the moment. So I'm going to be different. I'm going to question authority. I'm going to question the rules. I'm going to question everything by drinking this tea. And that's part of the reason why I got my call sign. I got the call sign Neo. And the main reason why I got that call sign is because when I got to my first fighter squadron, I was so pumped. I mean, it was the culmination of years and years and years of trying to get to that point, and I was like, I did it, I'm here. And when I was walking through the squadron, my first couple of days, I was like, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? And I wasn't trying to overdo it, but I think it came across as like overdoing it. So they said that I reminded them of Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. And I always like to question things. I like to do things a little different. So for me, I was like, hey, so why do we do things this way? You know, why are we flying at this airspeed? And a lot of times, some of the early on instructors were like, dude, we need you to just get on board and press the I believe button and just learn this stuff, which there's some truth to that, but I also think there's validity in questioning things. I was that guy that would question like, wait, why are we here for 16 hours a day? Like, do we need to be here for 16 hours a day? So that's why I got the call sign Neo. At the end of the day, super grateful for that call sign. Got to go into combat with that call sign and was in my first operational squadron with it. So very grateful for my time there. Hope you guys got a lot out of this video. Hope you guys know, you can tell some stories now about fighter pilot call signs. Really excited you're here. Please go ahead and like the video. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.